And today announced the suspension of continuous voter registration exercise in some parts of Imo, Anambra, and Kaduna State over insecurity issues. Today, President Buhari encouraging investment in Nigeria a day after he charged the service chiefs and cabinet members on the state of security in the country. We'll take a look at some of the approach. Thank you so much. Thank God it's Friday. Welcome to the program, everyone, wherever you may be watching. It is Politics Today, live on China's television. I'm Sean Akimale in Abuja. Let's begin tonight, shall we, with the story of the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. He was in Oyo State earlier today, where he met members and leaders of the All Progressives Congress, APC. The Vice President's meeting was also with APC leaders in Oyo State, and he spoke to them about his plan to contest for the #1 seat in Nigeria in 2023. He also met with some monarch who was presenting also his political credentials before the delegates. The Vice President says the past 7 years have been spent training and preparing him for a higher purpose. Take a listen to the Vice President.
Everything that I've learned as acting president has prepared me to run as president of our country and to function as president of our country. God does not make a mistake. God is deliberate in everything that he does. And by giving me all of those opportunities, every one of the opportunities I had to see for myself, to understand governance for myself at the highest level of our country's governance, to be exposed to everything, local and international, at the highest levels of governance in our country. All of it was not just so that I would sit down and write my memoirs. No, it was to come handy one day. And I believe the time has come. I believe that that time has come. And I have the responsibility to my country, I have the responsibility to you, to all our children, and to coming generations, to give all of what I've learned, everything I've learned, all of the service I've given, to be able to give it to our country and to serve our country faithfully.
Well, that's the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, there earlier today in Oyo State. We have a few more stories to tell you aside major stories for conversation tonight. So INEC is worried about the security situation in 3 states, Imo, Anambra, and Kaduna State. We'll be hearing more from what is happening on the ground, and would this impact on 2023 election? We get some security expert opinion on the program tonight, plus speaking with those who matter on the ground, why this exercise is being suspended in these 3 states. And of course, we'll focus our attention also on the Buhari government, the promises being made, and the actions that we are seeing, the approach of President Muhammadu Buhari. We hear from the presidency tonight. Stay with me, everyone, because like always, we give you what you need as some of the top stories in politics in Nigeria. But first, these are some of your political roundup stars.
President Muhammadu Buhari has reassured businesses that his administration is tackling challenges that affect them. He made the assertion today when he received chairman of Dangote Industries Limited, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, and board members of the group at the State House. He urged entrepreneurs and investors to evolve ideas and resources into areas of the economy that stimulate growth with long-term effects on job creation and poverty reduction, as he assures that fixing infrastructure remains priority.
I want to assure you, however, that the government will do everything possible to enhance development in infrastructure, especially in energy and transportation sectors.
Former President Goodluck Jonathan says he's yet to decide if he would run or not for the 2023 presidency. While addressing a solidarity rally in front of his office in Abuja today, the former president explains that the electoral process is still ongoing. The group, made up of men, women and youngsters, stormed the office with posters and leaflets, demanding that the former president joins the race.
Yes, we are calling me to come and declare for the next election. I cannot tell you I'm declaring. The political process is ongoing.
A coalition of over 50 youth support groups in the 19 northern states under the umbrella of Arewa Youth Assembly have adopted the former deputy governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Professor Kingsley Moghalu, as a consensus candidate in the 2023 presidential election. The group, at a news conference in Abuja, says the decision to adopt the former CBN governor as the preferred presidential candidate is based on his vast knowledge of the economy, security, and above all, his mastery of the nation's complexities. The Northern group also asked Professor Moghalu to dump his current party, the ADC, and join the All Progressives Congress, APC, a platform which they believe is veritable enough for him to get the presidential ticket.
We, a coalition of over 57 youth support groups, we have endorsed and adopted His Excellency, distinguished Professor Kingsley Moghalu to be our presidential flag bearer in the 2020 general elections under the platform of the APC.
The governor of Edo State, Godwin Obaseki, has tasked the newly appointed Commissioner of Police in the state, Abutu Yaro, on the conduct of peaceful elections, as well as deal with land grabbers, among other prevailing security issues. Mr. Obaseki also encouraged the new police boss to go along with the established security architecture. He noted the successes recorded in tackling insecurity have been largely due to the synergy between security agencies operating in Edo State. A group under the aegis of the coalition of Akampa and Biase stakeholders are appealing to the Cross River State Governor, Professor Ben Ayade, and the EFIC stakeholders to zone the governorship seat to Akampa Biase Federal Constituency in the Southern Senatorial District of the state. This, according to the group, is for equity and fairness, since that region has not benefited politically in terms of governorship and senate positions since the inception of the state, and owing to the fact that over 80% of the natural resources and internal revenue generated into the Cross River State government coffers comes from the two local government areas.
Biase and Akampa has never produced a senator. We are left as orphans in a system where we are the food basket. We are tired.
There you have it, some of your stories across the states. Now, let's get into a first conversation for tonight. The legal luminary, Chief Afe Babalola, is insisting that his call for an interim government before another general election in Nigeria is popular among the ordinary Nigerians, which he speaks for. The legal icon believes the Buhari administration should be willing to adopt the suggestion to suspend the 2023 election and opt for an interim government to give Nigeria a new constitution, since its administration, according to him, lacks the will to do the same. Take a listen to Chief Afe Babalola.
Life is unbearable for the ordinary people. There's unemployment. Nigeria has become the capital city for poverty. You are unsafe on the road, you are unsafe in your house, you are safe on the farm. So those who are governing us have the duty to look into that. And I'm happy the House of Representatives noted that. We people, including my poor self, as far back as 2001, I had been complaining about this constitution, which is a problem, cause of our problem. But those who are benefiting from it are not ready to amend it or to allow a new constitution. That was the reason why I said, before you go, which people don't understand, set up an interim government. Since you are not ready to do it, interim government can do so before an election, so that we can have new set of people in accordance with our constitution who can make Nigeria a better place and save it from drowning completely.
That's the thoughts of Chief Afe Babalola on the issue of the Constitution and the proposition of setting up an interim government. Now, President Buhari has been promising a good grounds for investment. He met with the chairman of Dangote Group, Mr. Aliko Dangote, earlier today at the presidential villa. Yesterday, the president met with service chiefs, where he frowned at the state of security in the country, where he questioned the ineffective use of technology and the unavailability of human intelligence from Nigerians in those areas where banditry and insurgency is having its toll in the country. Tonight, we take a closer look at the approach of the President, Muhammadu Buhari, the APC government, on the state of the nation. I'm being joined by the special advisor to the President on media, Mr. Femi Adesina. Thanks so much, Mr. Adesina, for coming.
Thank you. Good evening.
I'd like you to react quickly on what Chief Afe Babalola said. He said it. This is not the first time. This is the second time that he said it. The governor of Imo State has said, no, there is no grounds on the issue of interim government in our laws. But from the president's point of view, Chief Afe Babalola has said it again, saying that the issue of changing our constitution is paramount to solving our problems. And according to him, that Nigerians are suffering. What is the reaction of the presidency on this matter?
I'm sure you know that some of us are educated, but we are not learned. Because the lawyers say they are the learned ones. When it comes to issues like this, let's leave it for the learned ones. And that is why you have an Attorney General of the Federation. He is the one competent to react to this. If I speak on it, I will be merely pontificating. And such an important issue does not call for pontification. It is those who know and who understand the pros and cons of it who should respond on it.
What is the mind of, if you can tell us, of the president in relation to the state of our constitution? Because remember in 2019, the president did say that true federalism is the way to go. He's made that clear at some fora. I think it was before or after the election. It was making reference to the proposition and the recommendations made by the Nasir El-Rufai committee set up by the APC. Is the president thinking in that respect? And if he had said that in 2019, what has become of that commitment?
But there's a process going on in the National Assembly towards amending relevant aspects of the Constitution. So it shows you that the government believes in it, because all the support the National Assembly needs, the president is given. The president or the executive will not come to amend the Constitution, no. Rather, if he's interested in anything, it will sponsor a bill, and it's the National Assembly that will do it. The National Assembly is in the process of amending the Constitution, and that is the right body to do it.
Were there propositions from the executive?
I am not sure. The Attorney General of the Federation will tell you if there are executive inputs into that amendment.
Because it calls to question the willingness and the seriousness of this government in that respect, whether or not this government of the day thinks that there is a need to fix aspect of our constitution, especially in relation to issue of security. For example, the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, who perhaps didn't have that view before, maybe when he was in power, has said now that state policing is the way to go. Does the president believe in that aspect?
No, well, former President Obasanjo has a right to hold a different opinion from what he held in the past. But I recall that under him, restructuring of the Federation was a key issue that Afenifere fought for. And then there was the issue of state police, which also resonated loudly under him. He didn't do anything in 8 years. Like I said, he has a right to change his mind now, but it does not remove the fact that he had opportunity to have done something about those issues then, and he didn't do.
What is the biggest obstacle in the way of this government from doing same?
No, it is, like I said earlier, it is not going to be by executive fiat. It's going to be the duty of the National Assembly to do. So it's a matter of maybe a bill coming from within or from outside, and for the National Assembly to look at.
For those who say that there wasn't any political will to make that happen, and that's, what they refer to as a major problem of this Buhari government, making restructuring an agenda to be executed.
That is to say then that political will is that the executive is the custodian of political will, which is not true.
So does it make it right also for what Chief Abebola said, that if the government of the day is not willing to do it, can we put in place an interim government before the election to make it happen? Because he feels that that's the way to go, and we cannot shy away from it.
To the benefit of, to the best of my unlearned knowledge, it's not in our constitution that an interim government be set up at any time. It's not in our constitution. Therefore, you can't impose that kind of thing on the polity without the National Assembly.
Is the president aware of the statement from Chief Abebola?
The president listens to news, he reads the news. He's an avid reader of newspapers. It's not likely he's watching this program. So,
what is his view on this matter?
I have not discussed that with him. You know, Chief Abebola spoke just yesterday or the day before. I've not discussed this with the president, but I'm sure he's aware.
Now, what is happening to the 2014 confab report? I'm very sure the dust that he has gathered since 2015 in the shelf in the villa must have been this tall. And so what is happening? Is it a dead affair? Is this government thinking about that report? Or that is the end of it as far as Nigeria is concerned?
Are you saying that dust is thick enough to even make a foundation of a house?
It could be. Maybe in literal terms or as a figure of speech.
Well, the president was clear about that report then, in the early days of his administration, in the first term, that his party, the All Progressive Congress, had taken a principled position against that process then. So he was not ready to look into it. That was his position in the early days of the administration. At another time, he said that it was in the purview of the National Assembly to look into things like that if the interest groups will bring it up before the National Assembly.
As far as restructuring is concerned, should Nigerians be expecting anything from this government before the expiration?
The president is also on record to have said that those who advocate restructuring do not even have a unanimous position.
Let's agree that they don't.
Yes.
But what is the decision, the position of the government of the day?
Well, anything that is good for this country, the government will do.
Why is it not being done?
Well, it depends. It depends on the way you see things. You know, they say when something faces you, then it turns its back to another person. It depends. Since there is no unanimity on what restructuring is already, then you can't say the government has not done something about it. Look at some of the executive orders that the president has signed.
Some of which the court have overturned.
Or executive order 10.
Because they feel that is ultra-virus, that is unconstitutional. And the president took decision that is against the constitution.
So are you now going to say the president didn't do anything about it?
No, but the laws, the court has said it did, but against the constitution.
So look at some of those executive orders. They actually mean restructuring.
Let's talk about perhaps the biggest concern for Nigerians today, security.
Yes.
He gave an order to the service chiefs. And people will say, we've heard this before. Why has things gone bad again?
We will continue to hear it until this thing is resolved.
Do you think he holds water with Nigerians?
No, not holding water with...
Because when we hear it over and over again, it then means one thing to Nigerians, that what the president, the orders the president gives, maybe is not giving that kind of effect on those whom he gives the order to.
It is not right. That is cynicism. That is skepticism, if you look at it that way. Then you are saying that the security agencies are not doing anything, while they are doing a whole lot. But if the situation is complex and challenging, then we also have to understand that that is the way it is, and believe and be positive. About this time last night, the president was meeting with traditional rulers from across the country, was breaking Ramadan fast with them. And one of the things he said was that security was the duty of everyone, including the traditional rulers. And he concluded by saying that he believed that we will see the back of this insecurity before his administration leaves office. That is the way to go. If a president comes out and says, this insecurity is so terrible, we are all done for, everybody to your tents, how do you think the country will be? The president must continue to inspire hope, inspire courage, inspire confidence in our security forces and encourage the populace.
No, because I guess the reason, maybe Nigerians may not be demanding of the president if it wasn't a military general, or if he's not a retired military general, or perhaps if he hadn't made a commitment when he was taking office. He said he was going to lead from the front.
Yes.
He said he was going to take decisions.
And he's been doing that. He's been doing that. He told the traditional rulers last night that more than any administration in this country, he had funded our security agencies, he had equipped them, he had trained them, he had boosted their morale, and that is the truth. Go to the defense headquarters and let them give you comparative figures of all administrations till now. You will see that what the president said is the truth and nothing but the truth.
Is he worried, though, that perhaps if he thinks that he's putting everything that he has or he needed to put and things are not getting us the right result, is he frustrated by that?
The frustration may not be the word, because if a president gets frustrated, what then happens to the rest of the country?
Isn't it frustrating, Mr. Adesina, if, for example, you're wearing a white cloth and it's stained, and you put every effort to remove the stain and it's not, won't you be frustrated?
I'll look for a stronger...
And you do, and the stain still remains. Wouldn't it bring frustration? Because, we are talking tonight, if we can show the figures of how many people that have died in 3 months, almost 3,000 people, Mr. Adesina, have died in this country. Take a look at it. This is by region. In Northwest region alone, 1,103 people have died. In North Central, 984. Northeast, 488. Southeast, 181. And not talking about those who have been abducted. This is a report released so this is by region now, 127 in Southwest, South 85. Just a report between January and March this year. We're not talking about what has happened since President Buhari took over in 2015 and now. Wouldn't all this kind of thing cause frustration? If you were living in Kaduna State or you are the governor of Kaduna State, the kind of frustration that we have heard from Governor Nasir El-Rufai, and that's the reason why I'm asking the question. If the president thinks that he has put everything in it, wouldn't that have generated some kind of confusion? Frustration.
You know that not even one life should be lost wantonly in any country. Not even one. Not to talk of the figures you have reeled out. But it's not all those figures and in all those regions that you have either insurgency or banditry operating, there are even some self-inflicted wounds in some of those places where the killings are done by the people, the natives against the natives. So, would you then say it is completely the fault of the president?
No, let's talk about, those are exceptions.
Yes.
But let's talk about the ones that are inflicted by terrorists, bandits.
Yes.
And this government said it's going to fight it.
Oh, yeah, and it's fighting
the dastardly act or the attack on the train.
And the government is fighting it. It's fighting it. It's not only... the government didn't only say it will fight it. It is fighting it. There are advances, but unfortunately, sometimes there are reversals. But if you care to look at it carefully, there are more advances than reversals in this country. But when the advances come, they don't hit the headlines. But the security forces are doing a great job. A great, great job.
Maybe the commitment the president made that he's going to solve the insecurity problems of Nigeria. And if you look at the deaths that we see prior to the coming of this government and the one that we see
We
presently?
we shouldn't be comparing them.
No, but you make comparison.
No, we can make comparison.
This government make comparison.
We can make comparisons for some other reasons.
Comparison.
It's not to compare death
We will compare, Mr. Additional.
No.
When Nigerians are dying.
When you seem to compare, that is when people begin to shout.
This is reality, Mr. Additional.
You have asked me to come and speak.
Yes,
if
but
you don't
I'm
allow
asking,
me to speak,
go ahead, Mr. Additional. But the question is that we will make comparison if people are dying. This is not the lives of innocent Nigerians.
And do you know, because you started the comparison, do you know that there are some figures that will come up in previous administration that boggle the mind? In Yelwa Shendam, under Olusegun Obasanjo, people were killed in thousands. That led to declaration of a state of emergency in Plateau State. Under the other governments, people were also killed in many hundreds. That's why it's not good to always compare figures, because, like I said, one soul is already too many to die wantonly. We know we have a challenge in this country. Government is confronting that challenge, and we believe that the challenge will be surmounted.
Now, because if you stay on this issue of security, it's an emotional matter. If anybody who is watching tonight has lost anybody in any bandit attack or terrorist attack, perhaps, they might be more emotional.
It comes down to what I said.
Yeah.
Not even one soul should be lost.
Yeah, so we're looking at a situation where it will not repeat itself because of the promises and the commitment made by the government. And so if we were other government, we will still talk, and we've taken up other governments even before President Buhari's government. So another issue is corruption. One of the commitment made by this government is that it's going to fight corruption. But those who have criticized the decision of his government and the proposition to free some thieves, because that's what the court has called them, the highest court in the land, former governor in Plateau, former governor in Taraba State. And so a lawyer has even said, why don't you just open the gates of the prisons and free all thieves or those who are being jailed? Because these are high-profile or politically exposed persons.
You know that lawyer is a permanent critic. He criticizes everything.
Okay,
nothing is ever done right by him.
But let's talk about the meat of that criticism.
Yes.
The reason behind, if this government said it's fighting corruption,
yes,
is it justified to grant pardon
what were the reasons adduced for the pardon? I was at that meeting.
So tell us.
It was a Council of State meeting, usually attended by former heads of state and presidents, former chief justices of the Federation, governors, sitting president, sitting vice president. They were there on Thursday last week when that meeting held. And the reasons, you know that there is a prerogative of mercy committee, which will sit and look at all presentations made to it, people who have applied to be pardoned under the prerogative of mercy. Now that committee will sit, look at it, and then make a recommendation to the Council of State. That was debated back and forth, and the reasons adduced for those two former governors were, one, age, and two, severe ill health. Severe ill health. What does anybody gain if eventually they die in prison? And the two of them are said to be in very, very bad shape. It is the quality of mercy. Like Shakespeare said, the quality of mercy is not strained. It's not strained. It drops gently. That is what the president has done.
Maybe people may not be critical of your government if you had not made commitment to fighting hard corruption. Because according to the president, at some point, he said, if we not kill corruption, corruption will kill this country. And so perhaps the reason why people are critical of this government, that look, if you are saying that even if there are propositions for the release of those who are being jailed for stealing the monies belonging to their state, should they be listened to? Because the proposition of those propositions are in the Constitution are advisorial. They are not mandatory on the president. The president has the final call. Yes. So the president who said he's going to fight corruption hard, morally speaking, is it justified?
I have not seen how that pardon vitiates the war against corruption in any way. I have not seen it, because the war continues. I have not seen how it vitiates it.
Does it help it? Does it inspire it?
Well, it depends on how you see things. Do you know that there are some Nigerians who will criticize anything. Anything.
No,
however positive
we are talking
or
about
negative.
this one point.
Yes.
You say you are fighting corruption.
Yes.
Yet you are letting go those who are stealing the money of this country.
Yes.
As the law of the land. How much the money that is being spent in prosecuting these people, the long years of prosecuting these people, these justices of the Supreme Court and the federal, the High Court and the Appeal Court, all the sleepless night they've spent in ensuring that this happened. And these people think that you have rolled back all the successes that have been made in fighting corruption. Those are the views of lawyers that have spoken in this regard.
People will always have a right to their views. It does not mean that those views are cast in concrete. It does not mean
this government does not care about.
It does not mean that those views are the Holy Grail. It does not mean that they are the laws of meds and pasture which cannot be broken.
Isn't this government working for the Nigerian people?
Oh no.
But
that
is
why the government has a mandate. When you vote in a government, it has a mandate. It has the prerogative to exercise the mandate you have given it. That is what the president did. And if you look at that list, have you seen those involved in the Awka coup? The Awka coup, incidentally, is 32 years today. Today, April 22. 32 years. Now, they have been in jail for upwards of 30 years, if not more. Maybe for that, they were tried.
The prerogative of mercy rule covers those kind of military insurrection and all of that. But we are particular about this issue of corruption.
No, it's the same thing. The reason for the pardon was age and health. The government gains nothing if those former governors die.
And the president does not think this will impact on his corruption.
Nobody abhors corruption more than the president. So for him to have even concurred to the recommendation of that prerogative of mercy committee, it's a higher morality.
Was it difficult for him?
Well, it was discussed.
Was it difficult for the president? Because he was the one who made the commitment. Was it difficult for him to have taken that decision?
You know that it may not have been that it was at that meeting that the president knew for the first time. I'm sure that the committee must even have cleared the list with him.
All right, we need to go now. Just have about 30 seconds. I need to ask you this. On the issue of the arms sale to Nigeria, the $1 billion US.
Yes.
How far we did with that?
It has been cleared. It has been cleared.
What about, where's the latest on it?
The arms have been delivered. It was
been delivered?
Yes.
That's good,
yes.
Good news.
Before General Boratai left as Chief of Army Staff, it was...
Has Nigeria paid in full?
The arms are not bought off the shelf. You even pay ahead before they are manufactured.
So we have those arms now. So Nigerians should be expecting the effectiveness.
To the best of my knowledge, those arms had been in. They may not all have come, but I think a substantial part of them had arrived.
Okay. Mr. Femi Adesina, Special Advisor to President Muhammadu Buhari on media. Thank you so much for talking to us.
My pleasure.
I appreciate it. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
We take a break, everyone. And when we return, our attention will still be on the issue of security, this time on how it impacts our election. Dr. Ngwachuku Orji, the INEC rep for Anambra State, and retired AIG of Police Wilson Inolegu will be joining me on the program on the suspension of the continuous voter registration exercise by INEC in Imo, Anambra, and Kaduna State. Stay with us, everyone. We'll look at the impact and the implications. Welcome back, everyone. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has suspended the continuous voter registration process, the CVR, in parts of Imo, Anambra, and Kaduna State, owing to rising insecurity and attacks on its field officers. Speaking at a meeting with resident National Electoral Commissioners in Abuja today, the INEC chairman informed the gathering that the voters' registration exercise has been suspended in 54 centers in Imo State, 42 centers in Anambra, and as well as registration centers in Jema, Kaura, and large areas of Gwari and Giwa local government areas of Kaduna State. Take a listen to Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, INEC chairman.
We are concerned about the safety of our personnel and the Nigerians who come out to register at the various registration centers. We are also concerned about the security of our equipment and materials, including the printed permanent voters' cards made available for collection by registered voters. Consequently, following the unfortunate incident in Imo State last week, the Commission suspended the CVR exercise in all the 54 additional centers in the state. The exercise is now restricted to our state and local government offices, except Ihite Uboma, Njaba, and Osu, where the exercise has been suspended for the time being. Similarly, based on the urgency of the situation in Anambra State, the CVR has been suspended in all the 42 additional centers and confined to our state and local government offices, except Inewi South and Ogbaru local government areas, where the exercise is also temporarily suspended. Furthermore, in Kaduna State, the exercise has been suspended in Jama and Kaura, as well as large areas of Bruningwari and Giwa, on account of insecurity in the 4 LGS.
Nazi INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. Let's take a look at this matter. And I'm being joined by the resident electoral commissioner for INEC in Anambra State, Dr. Onkwachuku Oji. He joins us virtually from Awka, the capital of Anambra State. And here in our Abuja studio is a retired Assistant Inspector General of Police, Mr. Wilson Enalego. Thank you so much, Mr. Enalego and Dr. Oji, for joining us tonight. Let's get a sense of what this means from Dr. Oji. You are on the ground. It's good to see you. Since after the election in Anambra, so this is the first time we get it to see. What is happening exactly? What is the cause of some of this trouble? Are there specific, as INEC officials, being made specific targets?
Well, Shehu, thank you very much. Good to see you again. You know, the situation in Anambra has started even before now. We held the election in November in the state under a very tense condition. But we were happy that the situation improved after that election. But in the last 3 weeks, we have seen upsurge of violence, violent attacks in the state. Beginning from 31st of March, we have seen attacks in 4 local governments in Anambra State. And INEC offices are not targeted. But the problem is that some of these offices are located within the local government secretariat, which has become the major focus of the recent attacks. And once the local government secretariats are made inaccessible, it makes it difficult for us to continue our operation. That's the situation on ground. And that is the situation that has informed the decision to suspend the CVR in Obaru and Nnewi South local government. Basically, it's impossible for us to go to our offices in those 2 local governments and carry out our normal operations. That's the situation as of today.
So I wanted to know, because the question was whether or not, because there is a reason why I'm asking that question. We have a security expert here. If it is, then we know there is a problem, and how we resolve it, then we start talking about that. But from what you see, are INEC staff, officials of INEC, or anything relating to INEC, are they direct or specific targets of these attackers?
None for now. I can assure you that none of our staff properties have been targeted as at now. What we have done, like I said, is to take precautionary measure. And then we have situation in which we are indirectly affected by these attacks. So if a local government secretariat is attacked where our office is located, and then it makes it difficult for us to access that office. And if we can access our office, then we can carry on with our operations. That's the situation.
All right, then. Let me come to Abuja Studio with the AIG Enalego here. If you hear one of the tapes of those attackers who were saying, we warned you, we don't want elections here. What is your take on the attacks on INEC and the process, now which has led INEC to suspend the exercise in those areas. You know the implication?
I do. Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure for me to be here. Well, I listened to the tape and I watched, people lying on the floor. But let me say something. Election is in 3 phases: before, during, and after. We are at the pre-election phase. And clearly the situation in the Southeast has been anything but calm. Therefore, we've got to, should I say, anticipate that we could record incidents like this. And that is why one of the things I think should have been done, that should have been adequate, and I think is ongoing, threat analysis, threat assessment by the DSS, by the police, which will inform the security plan. Because there is in place an interagency consultative committee on election security, and this has been on for a very long time. I know it was there when I was in service, and it is still there. Therefore, what we need to do now is, what are the threats to various local government areas, and what can we do? Which means the policing plan for 2022 and 2023, in addition to addressing other security-related issues, should prioritize in the policing plan security of INEC officials, security of intended voters who may go for registration, and the rest of them. So my first take is, what is the level of threat assessment? What is the level of communication? What is the level of deployment by security agencies based on the security assessment? Because you develop a policing plan, a security plan based on threat assessment. So at this phase, which is before the real election, what is uppermost now is threat assessment. Now we already know Southeast is volatile. What plans have we developed? What are our response capabilities? And this will give assurance to those who intend to register for, to register to vote. So I think that's the important thing for now. Preparedness.
You know what has happened in this country in the last 20 years or so? I'm not sure that we've had up to 50% of voter turnout in our general elections. And the process, election is a process, it's not just an event. So the registration of voters culminates into people eventually having the power or the right of their franchise to go and vote. What is the implication of these? Because then when people at this stage are thinking that they may not be able to come out, they cannot register at their local level. They have to go to the local government or at the state offices to do that. In terms of security, because part of security is also psychology.
Of course.
How much of impact will that have on the election?
Of course, the intention of the attackers or whoever sent them is to create fear in the mind of the public, those who may want to register and those who may want to vote. Therefore, the security agencies must approach it with all robustness, with all seriousness, to deal with these threats. And that is why I talked about having a threat assessment and to be able to develop plans to address this concern. At this stage, the police and other security agencies who are members of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security should begin to look at what happened. What did we do right? What didn't we do right? Why was it possible for this this attack to take place? And have we? What was our response capability? All this will help to engender confidence in the mind of the public, and therefore, we need, in addition to our security plan, we also need to have a kind of communication strategy. We should be able to engage the public. And when we do this, we win their confidence, because it's a question of trust in the process. It's a question of trust, whether we are going to be protected by the security agencies. And we must disabuse the mind of the public regarding attacks that we are more than ready, we are more than capable. And that should start immediately. Where you think these attacks are coming from, there is no need waiting for them to engage you. You storm those places, make arrests, build confidence. Because I know among the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security, we have members go beyond security agencies. Even market women, traditional rulers, motor transport union, all this will give you the necessary information that you require to have actionable intelligence. When you begin to do this, when things like this happen, you make quick arrests, and then you are able to gain even prosecution, conviction. You do it rapidly. That will create confidence. What we need now is to prevent fear, and that we do by our visible presence and then doing the right thing and cultivating sources within our communities. Right. When we do this, it will help us.
Okay, great. Let me bring back the INEC rec. Give us an understanding of the preparations of INEC, because we know what the law says. It also empowers INEC to be able to determine whether or not it can go ahead. But we know that security is out of your hands, but the conduct of the election is also reliant on security. And if you look back at history, we know that elections have been postponed in this country because of security. INEC chairman had warned 2 days ago to say, look, we will not back down. Elections will not stop. We will go ahead. But give us a sense of how prepared and your options that INEC has in all of these issues of security that has come up.
Okay, Sean, we have, election is actually supposed to be a political process that go on in peaceful settings. We never anticipated that we would be conducting this kind of political process in the context of insurgency. But that's the reality that we are facing today. We have gained the experience, especially from what happened in Anambra in November, in terms of how to coordinate and implement our logistics under difficult environment. So we are ongoing with our plans. At the moment, I think the focal activity is getting the registration done. But I know that in the next week or so, we will kick in with the primaries of the different political parties. They have up to June 3rd to conclude their primaries. And that will be a major activity that we have on our hands. We have 18 parties. Quite a number of them are going to be conducting congresses at the ward level and then transit to the local government level and then up to the state and national level. That's a major activity that will involve engaging at the different locations in the state. All these activities we are conducting, believing that the security environment will be conducive for us to carry out these activities. We trust the security agencies. We believe them. They have demonstrated their capability in November in Anambra State. And I think that, they will also be up to task as we go through these activities. So beginning from now, all the activities lined up for 2023 general elections have already kicked in full force.
So give us a sense of the implication of what we're saying, because there is a popular proverb in Yoruba land that whatever will happen to you in the evening, it's from the morning hours that you start feeling it. Now, if in the early hours or the early days of the 2023 election process, we're already seeing suspension, cancellation, movement of process to the state and all of that, the threats in the local level, because elections are conducted not in the ward level alone, but it's conducted right at the polling unit. Now, what are the implications for anyone who is watching us tonight, who is thinking, well, who cares? Can we cancel some wards or some areas and go on with election in other areas? Could that happen? What is the general implication of these early warning signals?
Okay, you could of course, guess that it's a difficult environment. And what I believe is that decisions have to be taken as issues arise. We have our own ways of approaching things. So we will do a forward-looking plan in order to mitigate some of these challenges. But I can't tell you directly, whether things will be cancelled or postponed, or because we don't know what actually would. But as we roll into the election, from the pre-election into the election period, and then we see how things are going to pan out. We believe that security is an issue that involves the entire society. So we believe that the government, the community members, they are all working towards this, because election is a civic activity. It's some activity that engages the entire the entire civic space. So it's a civic activity, something that we all have to participate in before it could happen. For us in INEC, the priority is the safety of our staff, and then the safety of our clients, which are the electorates and which are the registrants. And these are the people that we focus on. So what we do is that we keep our eyes on what is happening within the society and then make decisions based on these outcomes. So it's difficult to say for now. But what I assure you is that we will keep our eyes and ears on ground, and then we will respond to situations as they unfold. But so far, so good. I think that we are not in a very difficult situation. We have been in a more difficult situation than what we are facing now, and we were able to conduct election in that environment. So I think that we are not in a bad situation. Thank you.
Let's quickly tell you about some breaking news or just stories just coming in about the People's Democratic Party. We can tell you that the Professor Ango Abdullahi committee has presented his report to the former military head of state, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, as to the consensus candidate from the northern region of the country, and the Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed and the former Senate President Bukola Saraki have both emerged as the endorsed Northern Consensus candidates of the People's Democratic Party. News just coming in. The Professor Ango Abdullah submitted a report from the Northern Elders' recommendation today at the uphill residence of the former head of state, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, that Governor Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State and former Senate President Bukola Saraki have both been endorsed as the Northern Consensus candidates of the People's Democratic Party. We have so much on these for you right here on the top of the hour, right here on Channels Television. So let's conclude our conversation on this matter. AIG, give me your thinking about the way forward. Now, this is not a good sign when people are threatening. We told you there's not going to be election here, and they hack people down. They shoot people at close range. People lay down, destroy the CVR materials. Up until now, I mean, one person is dead. I'm not sure if the staff of INEC that they were looking for has been found. But what do you think government needs to be doing right now, or perhaps what security agencies need to be doing so that we can have the election in 2023?
Certainly, this is a wake-up call. And of course, even looking at the security environment, you can't take anything for granted. Therefore, I expect that the security agencies should present a united and coordinated front, which should send clear message to these saboteurs, this threat that they will not be able to carry out their threat of disrupting the process. So what is important is for security agencies to show a lot of presence and ensure that these things don't happen. And there should be a lot of proactivity. And then should it happen, there should be rapid action that should reassure the public that the security agencies will be able to guarantee their safety and security.
Dr. Oji, just in 30 seconds, your final thought. What is the way forward? Can Nigerians trust that this exercise is foolproof of all insecurity situation or issues?
I think that the signals we are getting is that the security agencies are on top of this. But we just have to be very proactive. We have to pay attention to threats and make sure that we don't go in the way of threats. So it's important that wherever we perceive any danger, we stay away and allow the security agencies to clear the danger, and then we can return into that space to conduct our activities. I think that's the way to go.
Dr. Chuku Oji, INEC Reg in Anambra State, and AIG, retired AIG Wilson Enalego. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming tonight to give insight on this matter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just before we go, the story just coming in, let's tell you that there is some recommendations made and decision from the Northern Elders as presented to the former head of state, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, at the uphill residence in Mina, Niger State, that Bala Mohammed and former Senate President Bukola Saraki have both been endorsed as the Northern Consensus candidate. Take a listen to the Governor Bala Mohammed briefly.
This house is a political house, it's a house of leadership. On our own free volition, 4 of us entered into an agreement to seek for consensus so that we can close rank and build unity for the North and for Nigeria. And we are happy that after due process, due consultations involving the Northern Elders Forum, my humble self and Senator Saraki have been taken as consensus candidates.
We'll be getting more insight on how the two men as consensus candidates will work, especially coming from the northern region of the country in the People's Democratic Party. But that's how we draw the curtains of the program tonight on the right chat here on China's television. I'm sure Kimberly. Bye for now.